Helima, thank you very much. Normally at this time, you and I, we get our tails on a plane, we fly to Vienna, we meet in a stairwell and have 250 people crowd together and try to figure out what's going to happen. Obviously, that's not going to happen. This meeting, first off, what do we know about the meeting? Tentatively, quote, scheduled for Tuesday, but it could kind of happen at any time, right?
Right. There are reports that it was actually going to happen today. But then we've had the issue, as you mentioned, over compliance. The Saudis and the Russians are essentially saying, look, we're game for extending this 9.7 million barrel a day production cut for maybe 1 month, 2 months, but we need better compliance from two key countries, Iraq and Nigeria. And I think that's going to be the really big challenge getting a new agreement is how can Iraq basically satisfy Saudi Arabia and Russia that they'd be able to cut an additional 650,000 barrels quickly. I mean, Iraq had said they would cut 1 million barrels in April. Again, they've fallen very short of that. And so the question is, will Saudi Arabia and will Russia continue to make up the difference? Or do we essentially just move to basically staggering down the cut that was done in April?
And it's hard to overstate what Iraq has been doing. I think you and I may have had a conversation with a similar person yesterday. I'm just kind of, winking and nodding. And the idea that Iraq is not only not holding up their end of the bargain, Helima, but maybe producing more than they were pre-deal. But what can OPEC do about it? What are the penalties for Iraq?
I mean, Iraq has been the perennial laggard in OPEC. If we go back to November 2016, they had insisted that they should be given an exemption. They did not want to participate in the cut. And Iraq has huge revenue challenges. If you look at April, they took in $1.4 billion in oil revenue. Their monthly average is usually $6.6 billion. They've had massive protests over government's failure to provide essential services, jobs. They say they need every last barrel. They also say, look, we pay a penalty if we shut in production that's operated by international oil companies. So they say they face technical and financial challenges complying. But the Saudis essentially say, look, you signed up to this agreement. We've essentially cut more production. The Saudis say they've cut 4.5 million barrels. That's basically Iraq's total production. So they're really trying to see some effort on Iraq to become compliant. And that's what's holding this whole thing up.
Yeah, you probably rolled your eyes like I did, Helima. You see on Twitter, headlines, OPEC strikes a deal. I'm like, here we go again. The oil paparazzi rushing to get ahead of itself to say, there's a deal. I mean, right now, until they get, I guess, not in a room, but virtually together, Helima, there is no deal. Do you believe that there will be a deal to extend the 9.7 million barrels a day for a month, then meet again, then revisit? Like, where do you think OPEC's going to ultimately go with this?
I mean, I think in the end, they'll find some way to basically put a Band-Aid over the Iraq and Nigeria situation. We've already had the Iraqi acting oil minister out on Twitter on Tuesday, essentially saying, no, we're going to become compliant. Same thing with the Nigerians. So I think there'll be some type of public act of atonement where these countries give some type of schedule for becoming compliant. And then we basically roll this cut over for another month, and then it gets reviewed. But again, this issue of compliance is something that the Saudi oil minister takes very seriously. He basically says Saudi Arabia will do more, but everybody better do what they promised they were going to do.